Hey, good morning to everybody. Happy Wednesday. It's Daryl here. It is bright and freaking early, man. It's 3 a.m. here in Connecticut on the East Coast. Okay, I came across this story. First, I came across it on the top 10 trending news items, Wednesday, November 15th, 2023. If you haven't heard this news item yet, if you haven't heard this story yet, if you haven't seen this clip yet, you're probably going to see it today. First, I saw it on TMZ, and then I saw it on top 10 trending news stories and all over the place. The clips will be down below. I'll try to put the video right on top so you can see watch the whole clip. The whole clip's about maybe 8 minutes, I guess. And it's an embarrassment. It's an embarrassment to the United States. This is exactly why I'm losing hope for this country. To be honest, I really feel like we peaked. The country has peaked and we are falling apart now. We're so divided. And another thing that this reminds me of when I talked about MMA, mixed martial arts, and how I'm not a fan of it. And I've said this before, and I get nothing but hate mail or hate comments on this from the people that are big fans of this, because I always say that I can't watch it because it reminds me of all the altercations I've been in. It's a trigger for me, and I always say this. I say that this is my opinion. And I'm not saying all the people, but most of the people, I think, or a lot of the guys that go to this or post it on their Facebook pages or say they're big fans of mixed martial arts and all this other stuff. This UFC 295, I just did that video. I got like 7 likes, I think, out of like 300 views or something like that. So, and it's just nothing but, negative comments. And I believe that the guys, a lot of the guys, not all, that go to this and watch this are fantasizing, have never been in a scrap in their lives, and fancy themselves macho and kick butt and all that, and they want to be part of this to make themselves look macho. And if you've actually been in scraps, you really don't want to watch this, like me. That's my opinion. It is my opinion. You can send me all the hate comments you want, but I'm not gonna. And this story actually kind of solidifies my point. Senator Republican GOP Senator Mark Wayne Mullen. There's a picture of him at one of these mixed martial arts events. Okay, this is what happened. This was an economic meeting, an economic discussion, hearing on economics. Okay, there's a bunch of senators sitting in the front of the room like usual, and there's people testifying. The main person testifying here is Teamsters General President Sean O'Brien. I'm a big fan of Teamsters. I was a Teamster truck driver. My union was out, I believe it was 917 or 914 out of Manhattan. It's been like 20 years. 917 out of Manhattan. And I remember these guys these Teamsters coming up to Connecticut to meet with us, to unionize us. And man, these guys didn't kid around. These guys, I can't even say in this video. We went out to lunch with them. Me and the president, the top guy, the guy we voted for top union guy in our shop. When we went to unionize, we went out to the guys that came up. The Teamsters came up from New York, and we went out in this big black Lincoln Continental. I swear to God, and the stuff I saw in that car, I can't even repeat now. And I'm a big fan of Teamsters. My pay doubled. And it was hard for anybody to get fired. We had so much more leverage. I'm a big fan of Teamsters, but that's not what this video is about. Okay, so GOP Senator Mark Wayne Mullen and this Teamster General President Sean O'Brien get into it. They're on either side of this big hearing room, like you've seen, when the senator's sitting on one side. This plays into this. And the Teamsters president is sitting about, I'd guess, 30, 40, 50 feet away. It's a big room, okay? And they start talking smack. Apparently, they've been talking smack for a long time, in the news. This clip opens up, and the GOP Senator Mullen here is reading some of the comments that the Teamsters president has said about him. That he's a clown, that we can go at it any time, talking smack. And the GOP, all of a sudden it devolves into almost an altercation, where they start doing this. They start going, you want to go right now? Let's go. And the GOP senator actually stands up and takes his ring off. I got so many comments about this, because this just solidifies my point that These guys are full of it. They're just talk. They're all talk, and they've probably never been in an actual altercation in their lives. Taking his ring off, that's one of the stupidest things I've ever seen. Okay, so they're talking smack back and forth, and Bernie Sanders comes out the best in all this because he's leading. He's the head of this whole economic hearing. And he's like, he's trying to get them to be quiet. Bernie Sanders goes like this. He goes, "This is the reason why there's so much contempt, why the American people have so much contempt for Congress, because these two guys are just acting like kids in a schoolyard. And they're not fighting. They're just talking smack back and forth. You want to go? Let's go. Let's have a cage match." They're actually saying stuff like this. Okay, so like I said, this is just pathetic. A GOP senator, figures, Republican, and the head of the Teamsters. And I got to say, in my opinion, the GOP senator was the biggest clown in the bunch. At least the Teamsters president didn't actually try to stand up and pretend like he was going to walk over, which the GOP senator did. He actually stood up. And Bernie Sanders yells at him to sit down, and he sits back down. And like I said, he's a big faker. He's full of it. This isn't about scrapping. This is about ego. This is about pretending you're a tough guy. And I've said this before. This is something I've learned. Like I've said this over and over again. I'm not bragging. I'm trying to share things I've learned. And I've been in well over 100 altercations in my life. It first started when, after my father died, we had to move to the city, Waterbury, Connecticut, the fourth biggest city. It's not a big city, New York or Los Angeles type big city, but it's a bigger city in Connecticut. And we had to move there. My mother bought a house after my father died. She got trained as a nurse. She went back to work, and we had to move to we had to move out of the suburbs into the more urban area. And I had to learn how to fight. My father taught me how to box, but I had to learn how to street fight, to be more exact. And when I first started, I'm going to give you guys an example in a second. When I was 14 years old when I moved. And, almost every day I would get picked on. I grew a foot. I was a tall guy. And, I had boxed with my dad, but I'd never really been in a street fight or and I was getting in fights every day. And the very first times I kept getting slammed in the face right off the bat. And because we'd go into it, and it would start off, I'd start talking smack. Like, "You want to go? Let's go right now." You push each other, you get in each other's face like that. And I learned you don't do that. You never do that. Like these two talking smack back and forth. That is, if I saw these two on the street, I'd walk away. I said, nothing's going to happen here. They're just putting on a show. When you actually get into an altercation, you don't talk smack. You never talk smack. And I'm going to give you guys one of the first, I remembered this morning, one of the very first fights I ever got in where I learned not to do this. And like I said, this whole thing with this guy taking the ring off, nobody would have even known he was wearing a ring. Who are you kidding? That's a show. That's like, oh, I don't want to mess you up too bad. Kind of, it's a joke. It's a show. It's about his ego. These two are like two little kids. And here's another point. Okay, Senator Mark Wayne Mullen, he's got to be fairly intelligent, right? He understands, social interaction, physics. Okay, these two are they're 40, 50 feet apart. There's all these other people standing around them. So he goes to stand up, right? Like, "Oh, I'm coming over there. I'm going to kick your butt." Now tell me this, answer me this. Does he really believe when he stands up, takes his ring off, that he's going to walk around, like everybody's going to just, make way. He's going to walk around. The other guy's going to get up and they're going to start back. Does he really believe? Is he I got to say, he's got to have some intelligence, right? Does he really think that's going to happen? Does he, when he stands up, and he goes to, no, there's no way that's going to happen. And he knows that. He knows that as soon as he stands up and he starts taking his ring off, ooh, things are going to get messy now. People are going to stop him. This is not going to happen. He's not going to walk 50 feet across the chamber and meet the other guy in the middle and actually start going. That is not going to happen. Anybody with any semblance of intelligence knows that's never going to happen. So why is he doing this? Why is he standing up? Why is he taking his ring off like that? It's a show. He's trying to look like a freaking tough guy. Like, oh, I've done this before. I'm going to mess you up. It's going to be messy. Women and children better turn their heads. No, he knows damn well he's not going to make it 5 feet around this chamber out into the middle, and it's not going to happen. It's a show. He's pretending to be macho, making my point. Okay, so here's one of the very first times I ever got in a scrap. I was 14 years old. I had just moved to the bad side of the track, so to speak. And I started getting into fights back when I was like 13. I mean, like 8 years old, 9 years old. And there's this one big guy that used to pick on people, and I would always talk smack back, and he would always we'd go at it, and I'd get my butt kicked. And this is like when I was chubby and 8, 9, 10 years old. And now I'm 14, and me and my friend, my pacifist friend, he won't fight. He won't throw a punch. His father raised him that way. He won't fight. He's a little guy. And he's my best friend. And we're on the bus going to the mall in Waterbury, Connecticut. And we're not sitting in the back, because we're not bad guys, and we're sitting on the side. And there's 4 guys, including the bully that I always got into altercations with in elementary school. Him and 3 of his friends sitting in the back row of the bus, right? So we're sitting there, and I hear them start talking smack. Look at those guys, and they start saying derogatory terms, making fun of the 2 of us, and I just turn towards them, and I can never keep my mouth shut. And I'm like, screw you, let's go. As soon as the bus, I start talking smack, just like Mullen here, right? And then they're like, oh, the 4 of them, there's 4 of them, 2 of us. And we, my friend's a pacifist. So we're coming up to the first bus stop, and I realize we're in trouble now. So I'm like, let's just get off the bus, because I'm starting to panic, because they're gonna kill us. So we get off the bus, and we actually walk all the way up to the mall to avoid these guys. These guys are like, why are you getting off the bus? This isn't the stop. This isn't the mall. So we got off the bus like a stop ahead to surprise them and walk the rest of the way to the mall to avoid them. Okay. So we're in the mall all day, hiding, moving around, trying to avoid these four bullies. And we go to, it was G Fox at the time. We go, and we were big fans of Dungeons and Dragons. Okay, I was a geek. I was a big geek. And I bought a book, like the Dungeon Master's book. It was a hardcover book. It's about $25, about this big, right? And I'm all psyched. We're looking at it. We're going to take the bus home. We avoided the bullies all day. Going to take the bus home. I'm walking through G Fox. I'm coming out to where the bus stops, and I see the 4 guys waiting for us at the bus stop, me and my friend. And I'm like, oh my God, this is it. It's the last bus. I can't walk, 20 miles home. So I take the book. I don't want them to see the Dungeons and Dragons book. Yeah, 'cause I don't want them to think I'm a bigger geek than they already do. And I tuck it in my jeans, and I cover it with my my shirt to hide it. And then I was like, well, we got to do this. This is the last bus. We got to face them. So we go out, the 2 of us, and my buddy's standing, my little pacifist buddy's standing behind me, and me and the big bully face off. He's like, oh, you were hiding all day. You got off the bus. You can't avoid us all day. Right? And he does this. I don't think I've ever had anybody go to hit me in the stomach before or after since then. But he pulls back out of nowhere. See, this is where I learned. You don't talk smack. You never, talking smack will get you nowhere. In real altercations, you could tell when somebody's going to swing. You could tell when they're serious. You see it in their shoulders. You see it in their eyes. You see it in their face. They're coming towards you. It's going to be on. You don't talk. You don't say anything. You either go for it, you go at it, or you turn around and you walk away. Or, it either happens or it doesn't. You never talk smack. People that talk smack and push each other and say, oh, you go, you swing, no, you go, you started, Dad, those are people that don't want to fight. Those are people that are putting on a show. And like I said this before, one of the biggest mistakes is to get nose to nose. I see this on TV, people getting nose to nose. Never do that. Never do that, because if anybody, I've had people do this to me. That's where I learned it. If anybody does that to me, it's a headbutt right to the face. All right, so he hits me in the stomach, and I have the Dungeons and Dragons book there, and it's just bam, and you hear him hit the hardcover book, and his face is like, and we talked about this like 10 years later. I ended up using. I started using later, using substances, and I ended up using with all these tough guys later. And I never brought this stuff up. That's a whole nother story. And we never talked about that. We actually became friends. The bully had respect for me because I never backed down. You know, I always stood up to him. I lost. You know, these were the very early fights, like from, you know, elementary school to 14 years old. And I always lost, but I never backed down. Never taught, you know. And this is, like I said, you don't talk smack. You don't, like these two clowns taking off his ring. Let's go. No, you go. You said, that's not what you, it's not how it works. That's not how real altercations happen. It either happens, you get face to face, and, you know, it happens. One of the worst pieces of advice my father ever gave me was never take the first swing. And I got hit so many times before, you know, because he grew up in the 50s, before I would be able to see in somebody's face, their shoulders, when they're coming, you know, it's going to happen. And if it's going to happen, you hit, and you keep hitting, and you don't stop hitting until the person's on the ground, you know, and you did no mercy until they're on the ground. Anyway, I totally forgot about this. We walked back inside, you know, so he hit me in the stomach, and then the bus pulled up, and, you know, the look of shock, you know, he's like, you know, what did I hit? It hurt his hand. You could see it. And his buddies are like, what, you know, what are you doing? You know, why don't you finish him off? You know, and everybody got on the bus. We went home, and that was it. We never talked about it. Me and my friend went back into the mall. Now that I remember, I think we missed the bus, you know, because I was so shook up and everything. And he turned to me and he said, "That was so cool. How did you do that?" Because he didn't realize that I had the book in there at first. And I remember him saying something about a TV show, like TENSPEED and Gumshoe or something. He's like, "Dude, you're just like that guy from TENSPEED and Gumshoe, man. That was so cool." You know, my little pacifist buddy. So that was one of the very first altercations I got in at 14 years old, where I learned you don't act like a clown, like this Mark Wayne Mullen and the Teamster president. You go, no, you go, you started it. Childish claptrap. That's not a real altercation. That's two guys who never got into a fight pretending that they're going to fight. That's what that is. I'll be back later with another video. You guys have a good Wednesday.